Where did the origin of cursed techniques reside? Since the dawn of man, people used cursed energy to selfishly claw their way up and reach their twisted desires. Humans would willingly topple over others to ascend to higher heights and seek forbidden knowledge only few could truly grasp. Thousands of years ago, these powerful sorcerers walked the earth and paved the way for modern jujutsu. From the ashes came the Zenin clan and their dark nature Ten Shadows technique, as well as the Gojo clan with their eyes filled with the sky and control over space and time. People like Sukuna have vaguely hinted about how deep the roots of Jujutsu go. As someone who has lived for most of Jujutsu's lifespan, it makes sense he would have quite the ancient technique. As for others that may have ancient abilities, consider the people Sukuna is familiar with. Uraume, Kashimo. There's a noticeable trend here in what separates techniques like theirs from some of the more modern cast's abilities. We can infer a lot about what these reincarnated sorcerers represent and come to a full understanding of the origins of not only Sukuna and his cast of allies, but where cursed techniques stem from entirely.
まるで分かっていないな。いい機会だ。教えてやる。本物の呪術というものを。領域展開。
In the present, curse techniques have begun to develop alongside society. Things such as technology or cultural norms have shifted to where it has had an effect on national folklore. Because of this, we've seen sorcerers born with all kinds of new age abilities. The most extreme examples of this evolution would be Nanako and her cursed phone technique, or Hikari's domain expansion that revolves around pachinko machines. As time progresses, there will always be people looking to regress. The conservative higher up class of Jujutsu society hold techniques influenced by newer cultural aspects in low regards, especially when compared to more traditional techniques like Nobara's straw doll ability. This ideology seems to, ironically, progress over time, as even a technique like Naobito's projection sorcery was deemed new age and unappealing for his time, regardless of the clear strength of the technique. However, there's clearly a reason for the conservatives' tight embrace of the old ways. Despite the obvious advantages from some of these techniques, when compared to what we've seen from ancient sorcerers, the old ways do break the scale of power the modern Jujutsu era has enjoyed for over a century. It seems this reason for a call to tradition may be tied to one vital connection that some of our strongest contenders from these prior eras share. The secret of Jujutsu, lost to time, is the original form of energy manipulation, the introductory phase to Jujutsu as a whole, control over the elements. After demolishing a decent portion of the city of Shibuya with maximum meteor, Jogo prays out loud that there's no way even someone like Sukuna couldn't take damage from that attack. If it hit, says the King of Curses in retaliation. In its closing moments, the most standout thing between these two's battle is Sukuna's reveal of his ability to control flames. Sukuna is genuinely surprised at first that Jogo doesn't understand what he's done, but simply writes it off as him being a mere cursed spirit. Unlocked through the command open, we receive a text bubble of a black box as well. Misdirection. Although vague, by looking at other context clues, we can decipher exactly what the secret behind this is. For example, another sorcerer that we know for a fact is close to Sukuna is the androgynous monk Uraume. According to the Jujutsu Kaisen data book, Uraume is an ally of Sukuna because they are an amazing cook when it comes to human meat. It's not a secret anymore that the King of Curses is guilty of cannibalism. Preparing and cooking people can't be done by just any chef. It takes someone special. But more importantly, when dealing with multiple corpses and you need storage, freezing them would probably be the best course of action, no? In the final climax of the Shibuya incident, before Kenjaku releases the remainder of his binding vows and makes his escape, we watch Uraume effortlessly overpower a small army of Jujutsu High students with her ice formation technique, able to immediately freeze a special grade curse like Choso and incapacitate him, followed by what looks like physical potential in the ice claw they mend onto their finger. If not for Yuki Tsukumo's appearance, even Itadori is under the impression the entire group of sorcerers will be murdered by Uraume, who coats the entire terrain in frost and really only left the conflict damaged by the poison from Choso's blood, more or less due to their own carelessness. Sometime later, the devastation of the elements is felt once again. The thunderclap, caused by Kashimo Hajime, is responsible for the death of over 40 sorcerers. With the ability to expertly separate the positive and negative charges of his own cursed energy, Kashimo was able to create a sure hit, can't miss attack with his lightning bolts without the need for a domain. He is also able to electrify the flow of his cursed energy, resulting in his physical attacks carrying his lightning strike and making his offense unblockable. Panda even notes he must be a master at cursed energy manipulation to be able to turn his presence on and off from detection with ease. Cursed energy properties seem to be an evolution in the series' power system now, but perhaps a lost art in the modern era. The overwhelming display of power that has come from elemental curse techniques cannot be ignored. Now, you may be thinking, this doesn't explain techniques we also know to be from Jujutsu's humble beginnings, such as the Limitless and the 6 Eyes, or the 10 Shadows technique, but trust me, everything is connected. Even Ryomen Sukuna's secrets lie in the origins of Jujutsu, as even he himself has let on. What does seem so confusing at first about the sudden introduction of his flames, which even Jogo noted, is the prior thought that Sukuna's curse technique was cleave and dismantle. However, upon closer inspection, even this skill can be traced back to the elemental origins. Removing all societal evolution from the development of Jujutsu and reverting the world back to square zero, with absolutely nothing to influence culture but the bare world around it and man itself, it stands to reason the most original, natural form of negative energy manipulation would take the shape of nature itself. Just as the disaster curses were born from the fear and loathing of the oldest, most potent terrors of humanity, wouldn't that logic follow suit for the opposite side of the coin? And when granting that conclusion, modern Jujutsu techniques, when plotted out, look like a family tree, all branching out and being traced back to the source. If we were to apply the hypothesis that all techniques branch off from these original elemental abilities, let's now assume that Sukuna's actual original technique was fire manipulation. The ascension of Ryomen Sukuna, the evolution into a natural disaster, involves molding your selfish aggression into your Jujutsu development. A chef does need fire to cook food. Perhaps his extension of this fire ability became his cutting technique. As war furthered and society built itself around it, Jujutsu continued to shift in ways that its wielders willed, chasing their dreams, and those with the strength to actually grab hold gained the honor of molding sorcery further into their own image. Hundreds of years ago, a 10 Shadows user and a Limitless 6 Eyes user fought for supremacy. As time and culture progresses, changes in Jujutsu are explainable. A knack for fire extending into high-speed air slashes isn't that unreasonable, but where do completely supernatural abilities, such as those that stem from the Zenin or Gojo clan, come from? If we are to consider the elements of fire, ice, and lightning, etc. are able to be manipulated by sorcerers, the liberty is with us to assume magic, such as light or darkness, could also play an effective role in Jujutsu. Their uniqueness does come with boundaries though, as these heightened degree of strength techniques are locked behind the genes of their ancestors, opposed to all these other abilities that are developed from scratch or born out of cultural shifts. While we don't know much about the relationship between Kashimo and Sukuna, the similarities between their can't-miss ultimate attacks are unmistakable. Despite them seemingly living in separate eras, their familiarity tells a bigger story. Knowing these three all share a common trait, but also all know each other across millennia, the commonality must be intentional. When one considers the conservative higher-ups' obsession with keeping Jujutsu as traditional as possible, one must also consider that the power of Jujutsu has dwindled significantly over the years, while negative energy and cursed spirits are on the rise. What do you guys think the real answer is? Do we keep moving forward and progress with what we know already, or take a long, hard look behind us and go back to the basics?